Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Common Anomaly Podcast. I'm your host, Stuart James. Joining me today is Clayton James. How's it going, brother?
It's going good. It's going really good.
Excellent. Well, today we've got kind of a different episode. This is part 2 in a series of us, experimenting with ghost hunting. So it might be a little bit different today. We're recapping our field notes, kind of doing a debrief, post-mortem, what have you, of our trip to Bankhead, Alberta last weekend. And we got some pretty interesting results, I have to say.
Yeah, I don't know what I was expecting to get out of any of the stuff we brought, any of the ghost hunting stuff we brought. I don't know what I was expecting, but yeah, we got some interesting results.
Yeah, I mean, my fear was that we would come away with absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. This would be a very short episode, or we would have to pivot and find some other source of content entirely. And actually, that's something I do want to talk about as we go through. Is I definitely felt the pressure of we need to come away with something, mm-hmm. right? But I mean, I had kind of some Plan B scenarios, B, C, D in my head of what we could do if we just really came away with nothing. But we didn't. We had some pretty intriguing results, which we'll get into very shortly. But first, I think we should just kind of recap where we're coming from off our last episode.
Yeah.
So maybe not everyone has heard that episode. If you haven't, by all means, go back and give it a listen. I believe it's season 2, episode 3, Ghosts of
Wild Rose Country.
Wild Rose Country,
yeah.
Which was us preparing, doing research and kind of discussing different locations that we might visit and kind of just figuring out ghost hunting and what kind of our kit would be for the excursion. And yeah, this is the follow-up where we actually executed, got on the ground. And so let's maybe talk a little bit about Bankhead and how we landed on Bankhead.
It's interesting that we landed on Bankhead because in that previous episode, we went through a whole list of potential locations. We talked about Bankhead, we talked about CB, we talked about Rowley, Wayne, Dorothy, Frank, and we landed on Bankhead, which was kind of ironic because Bankhead's probably the one we talked about the least in the episode.
Yeah.
We kept saying we meant to circle back to it, and we never did.
And we never really did. Yeah, and it did, and okay, I feel like we're going to touch on some just odd synchronicities and things that happened over the course of this journey. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the very first thing I'd have to say is that it felt like we kind of got pushed to Bankhead a little bit. Because yeah, like we said, it was on our list when we went through the episode. And we asked for audience feedback.
Yeah.
Kind of, people let us know, what's your vacation? And although it was the place we talked about the least, that was the biggest piece of feedback we got from audience was basically everyone said Bankhead.
Even Loeb wanted us to go to Bankhead.
Even Loeb wanted us to go to... And didn't you do a thing with the spirit box at home where you asked about Bankhead or something and you got a message back? Like, just go or something?
Yeah, I forgot all about that, actually.
Yeah, right?
I completely forgot about that. You have a much better memory than me, clearly.
Well, I just remembered that. But yeah, so it felt like all signs were pointing to Bankhead. So what is Bankhead? For people that aren't Albertan and might not know. Honestly, before we did the research for the show, I'd never heard of Bankhead.
Well, today, Bankhead is just a ruined ghost town just outside of Banff, Alberta. It used to be a coal mining town. It was established in 1902 by the Canadian Coal Company, which was a subsidiary of the Canadian Pacific Railway Company.
Yeah.
And they had, one of many coal mining towns in Alberta, specifically mining, I believe it's called anthracite coal.
Yeah, very high quality coal.
Yeah, which Canadian Pacific needed to
build the railway.
Yeah, and run their steam engines. Yeah, this town was the mine was in operation for about 20 years. Throughout those 20 years, there was a succession of worker strikes over pay, over working conditions. In 1922, there was a wildcat strike by the coal miners. And where in the past these strikes had typically been resolved, the CPR had negotiated the miners back to work. This particular time, they decided, the mine's output at that point was in, I guess, a terminal decline.
Right.
And the mine was just shut down, and the town was abandoned. Most of the people there relocated to either Banff or Canmore, or Calgary.
And it became the ghost town that it is today.
A lot of the buildings were actually moved to Banff or Canmore. What's left there is
ruins,
foundations.
But for its
walls.
time, it was a booming town.
It was for its day, it was a pretty big old town.
It was for the West. It was bigger than Banff.
Yeah.
At the time, and it supplied all the power to Banff and Canmore and surrounding areas, and it had the most modern amenities. It had indoor plumbing and electricity far before any other centers that far west at that time had.
Yeah, like we think of Banff, Alberta today, it's a huge tourist spot. It's absolutely beautiful, but it kind of internationally known tourist spot. But if history had played out just a little bit differently, Banff might have become the ghost town, and Bankhead might be the big tourist hotspot in Alberta.
I mean, they're so close together. But
you can walk from Bankhead to Banff.
Yeah, so I guess that's kind of Bankhead in a nutshell. And I mean, first I've got to say, just a fascinating place to visit. Aside from anything paranormal, like I had a great time. It's an incredible sight to behold, and just you're in the mountains. Banff, like you just said, Banff National Park is a very beautiful place to be just on its own. And we had gorgeous weather that day, and just there's an amazing lookout point right before you head down into the town site, and just to see these impressive ruins of these buildings, and just the forest kind of reclaiming all of it 100 years later is really something to see. So I highly recommend going to check it out if you're in the area. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
It was a lot of fun. So we headed out. We headed out to Bankhead last weekend, and so we got there. And I have to keep reiterating, Clayton and I really didn't know what the hell we were doing. This is the first ever ghost hunt.
Yeah,
first time ever tried anything like this.
We both went on Amazon and bought some rudimentary ghost hunting equipment. We went in very different directions with it.
That's right.
You went more analog. You had your dowsing rods.
Yeah.
And I had my spirit box. I had an EMF meter.
Yeah.
Which it detects fluctuations in the magnetic field.
Yeah.
I had a bunch of camera stuff, which I ended up not really utilizing for any ghost.
Doing a ton of work with,
ghost hunting business. I just took lots of pictures.
Yeah, I was just trying as we kind of go through step by step our experience on site, doing the actual investigation. I was trying to photograph areas that we defined as hot spots, or that we felt like might be hot spots, and that seemed to happen quite organically, where we just kind of intuitively found locations where we feel like something here. And we did 2 passes.
Mm-hmm.
We did a pass in the morning, and then we broke for lunch, and then we did a second pass in the afternoon. And that wasn't by design. It just sort of happened that way, because we thought, well, we'll go check out the site. And we didn't necessarily take all our equipment with us.
We didn't realize how big it was going to be.
Yeah, I didn't expect how long it would take us to spend time in the site and go through it. So I thought, well, we'll go check it out. First of all, make sure we're in the right place, for one.
Yeah.
That we'd actually found the right spot. But then check out the site, kind of a quick survey, and then come back, get all of our kit, and go through again. But we ended up just doing a full pass. I had brought my dowsing rods. I had all my stuff. So we kind of did a full pass through in the morning with our analog equipment, and then broke for lunch, and then went back through a second time with the EMF and the spirit box and our actual recording equipment that we didn't bring the first pass around.
Yeah.
And we've got some in situ audio clips that we'll intersplice kind of as we go through. So why don't we talk about our first pass and the hot spots we identified? You head down the stairs. There's a couple sets of stairs that take you down into the town site from the lookout point.
Yeah.
And kind of we actually, there's the lamp house. Was
Yeah,
the first house.
that's the first structure you see.
Let's talk about the lamp house, because we really didn't do any sensing. We didn't do any EMF or dowsing rods or anything at this location. Although I wanted to, I think it was just too busy.
Yeah,
it's just too busy of a spot. But it's quite a creepy building.
Yeah, so the lamp house, it's probably the most recognizable building. It's the most intact building in those ruins.
It's the only one that still has a roof.
It's right.
Oh, no, there's two. There's two, I think.
Yeah, and it's kind of right where the trail is. It's right off to the side of the trail.
It's the first stop. Yeah.
So if there's people hiking in the area, they will usually stop and check out this building. It's very striking looking. So it was hard for us to think, oh, we're going to stop and with all our ghost hunting stuff when there's
that's
like
where
all
everyone
these,
is taking a selfie of
all
themselves.
these tourists coming by and taking selfies by this creepy building. It's quite intact. It's still got all its walls. Got lots of really interesting graffiti on it.
Yeah, the whole site. There's lots of graffiti all over the site, but that building in particular, the most. And
it was. I was just immediately struck by all the eyes.
Yeah, that was definitely a theme.
Yeah, it was
a theme throughout the entire
That's
site.
a motif.
There was eyes everywhere
throughout the entire town. Like on every intact wall, there's these eyes spray painted all over them.
There was really something about that, and honestly, that turned into a synchronicity thing for me throughout my whole week. I was noticing eyes and eye symbolism.
Oh,
everywhere.
That's a little creepy now, because I was researching the
all-seeing eye or the eye of providence. Yeah, that's actually pushed me into doing research just on the symbolism of the eye of providence or the all-seeing eye this week, because it was turning into such a kind of, again, just an intuitive kind of theme for the week. But I will play devil's advocate. Let's be intellectually honest. There's graffiti, so I mean, you could just as easily say there was a dick and balls theme or motif.
I only saw
such and such.
I only saw one of those.
There was, but far less so. There was the standard graffiti stuff, but there was this very large other element in the graffiti that was, like demonic faces and eyes everywhere. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. Maybe we'll talk about it more as we explore through the episode.
I've got lots to say about the eyes.
Okay, great. Yeah, but that was something very striking, and it's definitely very present at that first location.
Yeah.
But it was just too busy of a location for us to do any real work there, because it's just the first spot, and that's where the most kind of people were. And the farther you got into the area, the more kind of you could get on your own and find isolated places for us to work. But so we moved on from the lamp house, and our first hot spot was, we didn't know what it was. There's not much left to that building. It's basically just the square foundation and a couple pillars within. I think we discovered it was a blacksmith. Is that right?
Yeah. It's I went through some maps of Bankhead, and walking through those ruins, it's a little tough to tell exactly where one building ends and the other begins, because none of these buildings are intact. But where we found our first hot spot, there was a blacksmith and a carpentry, and they were right side by side.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were one building or if they were two separate buildings.
Yeah.
But that's kind of right where our first hot spot was.
Yeah, and so that was a spot where, I don't know, for whatever reason, we got into that building, and we decided to crack out the dowsing rods and see if we could find any hot spots. And we did, kind of in the back corner of the, let's assume it's the blacksmith shop, found a hot spot. We got the rods to cross. And so we took a moment there, and we asked a couple questions, just like you do. You can ask yes or no. So the basic idea, again, if you haven't listened to the first episode, with dowsing rods or copper rods, you hold them out in front of you, and you can ask yes or no questions. And if the rods decide to cross in front of you, that's a yes.
Mm-hmm.
And if they swing apart from each other, that's interpreted as a no.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had asked if spirits were present and got an affirmative to that. We got
Yeah,
a yes.
yeah.
We asked if the former residents of that building were there, and we got a yes.
Okay.
And then we asked if we were welcome there, and we got a big no.
Yeah.
We got a big no. Yeah, so and that also turns into a theme. We pretty much found we were unwelcome everywhere we went in town, as far as the spirits go.
Mm-hmm.
But we were really rude and stuck around anyway.
Well, we didn't linger at any of these places for
excessively
terribly long.
times. But we did go back.
Yeah, well,
pass.
we
were very apologetic the entire time.
we wanted
we were trying really hard to be respectful.
We wanted confirmation with our electronic gizmos.
Yeah. So maybe this is a great point. Splice in our first clip. Well, and the clips are all from our second pass.
Yeah.
But since we're here, we don't need to do two passes in audio. Mm-hmm. So why don't we jump into our first clip or two? Our first two clips are from Site 1, the blacksmith shop.
Okay.
Okay, so Clayton and I are here in Bankhead, Alberta. We've already done one pass through the town, and we're just stopping at some of our hot spots that we found along the way the first time through.
I took my EMF meter. Stuart found a hot spot in the corner of we're in kind of a ruined building, and Stuart had found a hot spot with his dowsing rods earlier today. I've been
pretty much right where we're standing.
Yeah, I've been kind of scanning the area with my EMF meter. It's spiking beyond the baseline periodically in the corner of this building, but only briefly and only for a moment, and then it goes away.
Yeah, I'm not sure what this building was. It's more or less just the foundation is left. It's right next to the mining carts. But yeah, we did a quick check with the divining rods on our first pass through, found a hot spot, asked a couple questions, and we did get positive responses. We actually got positive responses at all three locations we checked.
Yeah.
So positive confirmation of spirits being here, but also a clear message that we're not welcome. They don't really want visitors.
Yeah, not
here.
Exactly a positive response. It was,
it
was an affirmative.
It was an affirmative, yeah. But
them being bothered by people being here.
That's right. But yeah, so that's our first location. I think we'll try and grab another bit of audio, maybe with one of the other spots as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really fruitful visit so far, and it's a gorgeous day. So we're just enjoying being in the mountains, and we're thanking the spirits for tolerating our presence for a little longer.
Yeah.
So we're going to get some readings at the other locations. Okay, I got it sorted. We're recording again.
Okay, hang on. I gotta...
FM mode.
Okay, ask it a question.
Spirits, do you have anything to say to us?
Vital support.
Sounded like hello, Stuart.
$12.
Doesn't sound like anything there.
Okay.
Let me ask something else.
Okay, hang on. Let's switch to something. Let's try something else.
Okay, I'm gonna ask if we are welcome here. Spirits, do you want us to leave? Nothing. Nothing. Okay, why don't we move on to the other locations?
Okay, so those are the first two clips together. Actually, we had recorded the first clip, then quickly realized we forgot about the spirit box.
Yeah.
So there's a space in between those two clips where I think you can hear we end one clip and then jump back in. And I think it's worth noting, at least, that we suddenly had a lot of technical problems with the microphone right after recording the first clip and trying to get it going again for the second clip. All of a sudden, nothing was working. And we had to kind of shut everything down and reboot to get recording again. But yeah, some interesting results. Definitely felt like we made contact with the dowsing rods, but not a ton of luck with the EMF and the spirit box.
Well,
although there was a couple oddities.
The EMF was interesting because not just at this site, but at the other two sites, you know, and I do know the thing was working properly because, you know, we were walking towards site one.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, as we're walking this way, the reading's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. What's going on here?
Yeah,
and then
that was funny.
I kind of I'm like, oh, I like looked up and we were walking like right underneath some like long range power lines.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
that was funny. You're getting really excited. You're like, it keeps going up. These are incredible readings.
yeah.
Right? And then, power lines.
Yeah. So no, the thing actually worked because we, you know, kept walking, and as we walked away from the power lines, the signal kind of went down to baseline again.
Yeah.
But it was interesting with the EMF meter because as you were asking your questions every time, either with the dowsing rods or asking questions of the spirit box, every time we were just asking questions, and when you were getting a response from your dowsing rods, those were the moments where the EMF meter would spike briefly.
Yeah, and it's odd because we were watching it and checking kind of constantly, and we'd take readings before we started recording, before we started asking questions, and there's just a normal kind of range of fluctuation.
Yeah, so
the background.
I kind of wanted to get a baseline with the EMF meter, and there's a few different things this meter measures. It's got different modes. You could measure milliwatts per square meter, volts per meter, what's called a milligauss, which is basically it measures magnetic field induction, and it also measures microteslas, which is magnetic flux density. As long as you have no follow-up questions, those are what those things are.
No, I'd like a definition, please. What is magnetic flux density?
It's math and stuff.
Math and stuff, yeah. No
Anyway, I was primarily I was switching between different modes here and there, but I was primarily measuring volts per meter.
Yeah.
Basically like a electric field strength.
Yeah.
And what we found was basically anywhere on the site, the baseline is about a reading of 30. Yeah. You know, sometimes it would waver to like 29 or 31, but it was always at about 30 as a baseline. When we walked underneath those power lines,
this is like 200.
It shot up to like 200, 250, and then, tapered back down to 30. So once we were in that structure, it was back at 30. But as you were asking your questions and getting a response from the rods, it was briefly spiking up to like 150.
Yeah, and it was kind of, and that turned into a theme for the day. It's like we were getting the kind of normal background, but when we would try and interact with something, there would be these momentary spikes happening.
Yeah.
Almost like we were agitating.
Yeah, it became kind of a theme that we were not wanted there.
But interesting stuff.
I was a coworker of mine, Ashley. Shout out to Ashley, who's very into all of this stuff.
Nice.
I was talking with her about getting ready for this ghost hunting expedition, and she was kind of giving me advice on things to do, and she said, it's good to bring some sort of an offering.
Yes.
Like alcohol or something to pour out on the ground. Yeah. And both of us forgot.
Yeah, we remembered midway through the day. We were like, oh, right. Especially when we kept finding that we were unwelcome.
Yeah.
We're like, what might have smoothed things over is
Yeah.
if we'd remembered to bring an offering, which we forgot. But next time.
Yeah. Apparently, you get much better responses,
you
much
gotta-
more welcoming
you gotta bribe
responses.
them, right?
Yeah.
You gotta incentivize. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like old coal mining town, bunch of spirits of coal miners.
Yeah,
I'm
shot of whiskey won't
yeah.
hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next time. Okay, so why don't we move on to our next location, our second location. This, I think, was the most exciting location for me. This was the power station.
Yeah, and it was the hardest one to get to.
Yeah.
The spot where we got kind of the reading. We had to navigate some pretty rough terrain to get down there.
Yeah, because there's
I actually scratched up my arm
Oh,
pretty
yeah,
good
yeah.
getting down there.
I don't think we're supposed to go down there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's signs saying stay in the path or whatever for your own safety, but we completely ignored that and crawled around, got right down into this site because it was interesting, and there was all these kind of low corridors
Yeah.
that were grown over that were really interesting. And yeah, I remember we kind of went down the hill. We wanted to get a better look at this. We had kind of gone on to the top of it. Where there's, and I was trying to figure out what these structures were.
Yeah, you
I think they were supports for what would have been the boilers.
Yeah. But you go down this into this area and there's like a whole like network of like hallways and tunnels and stuff.
And it looked like there were windows. I kept wanting to see what was in these windows, but I think those windows were just kind of notches where other kind of wooden beams or supports would have been for structures that are long gone in the building, but they kind of looked like windows. So I really wanted to investigate those. But yeah, when we got down in there was one corridor, and I remember I asked you a couple times through the day, because aside from the equipment we brought, the dowsing rods and EMF meters and spirit boxes and all that, I was trying to tune into just some level of intuition. Just to see, okay, I'm just going to try and keep my awareness open and to see if anything draws my attention.
Yeah, see if you got just a feeling about certain spots.
And definitely there was that one corridor where there was this kind of, when we finally got down and into it, it was drawing my attention for some reason. And I went down. It's quite narrow. It's really just wide enough for one person to walk down single file, and there was like this chimney stack or something. And it was all it looked like it was covered in soot, and so it was this little half cylindrical cutout into the concrete. I remember when you came down behind me to explore it, you definitely had a moment where you just said, this is a spot, check here. Right. And I was like, okay, pulled out the dowsing rods, and it was really weird. They just immediately they didn't cross. Like
they pointed you in a direction.
They both swung left. Pointing further down the corridor to the left. And so we continued down the corridor to the left where it was directing us, and just at the end of the corridor where it kind of comes around a corner, to which now there's nothing. It's just forest, or it's overgrown. But you got to the end of the corridor, to this corner, and then the rods crossed. And we thought, okay, so we've been directed to this spot. And that's where we asked kind of some more questions. Again, we just kind of repeated the same questions from our first, like, is there spirits here? Yes. Did you live in this town? Yes. Did you die in this town? Yes. Are we welcome here? Hell no. No, get out of here. And I want to say this at this point, and I think we got kind of the strongest feelings right around this building. This one and the next one, but they're both in close proximity. But at this site in particular, I feel like I felt a vibe of, let's get out of here and move on. I'm really not feeling well. But I did want to say, like, I'm blown away by the dowsing rods. I didn't think, because it's just, they were so clear and deliberate responses, right? it's kind of spooky when you're doing it because I mean they move around kind of freely. You're trying your best to just hold them steady and not influence them in any way. But then yeah, when they both just jotted to the left like that, and we got to a specific spot and they just crossed right away. And then the responses to the questions are just very clear and deliberate movements from the rods. I still don't know what to do with that. You haven't tried them yet. I want you to try them so you can.
I am scared to try them, and plus I always freeze up in moments like that. That's why you asked all the questions, because I could never think of what to ask. I could never think of a question.
I was
to
like,
ask.
ask a question. You're like,
I was
spacing. I've got nothing.
I was reading about them though. You know why they're made of copper?
Why?
Because those copper is it's sensitive to fluctuations in the electromagnetic field. So that's what makes them move. You're holding them steady,
really
but
just as an analog EMF.
Yeah, they'll sway in different directions based on electromagnetic field fluctuations.
Right. Wow. But anyways, super cool. You got to try it out just to see, because I started, and I think we discussed this on a car ride back. I was like, I wonder if we're getting really clear responses because they just work that well, or do they work that well for everybody, or
maybe you've got the shining.
Do I got the shine going on? Yeah. Have I got some some gift with these things? I don't know. But spooky how well they work, hey? You definitely get a strong sense that you're actually interacting with something.
Like I haven't tried them, but I've watched you use them, and I'm a believer after watching you use them. I was really surprised.
But yeah, so maybe this is the moment then to grab our clips from that location.
Yeah.
So I think we just got one from this spot.
And we were hesitant to come back to this location because we felt like we got such a strong, unambiguous, "Are we welcome here? No.
Yeah.
Get out."
And I remember discussing that going back. I was like, are we doing the right thing here by going back? Like we came through and we got a message.
And I said we need it for the content. It's for the show.
That's right.
And we won't stay long.
We did our best to be respectful and apologetic for intrusions. We should just go back with some whiskey, just to, as like an apology.
I can't believe we forgot that.
Me too. We'll have to make a trip back. I had to buy a park pass, which I of course I bought the one for the whole year because it's just a better deal if you're going to go back at all. We'll have to get out to the parks more this year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we can go back just for that. Good excuse to go back to Banff.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of these clips here. Or a listen, rather.
Okay, we're at spot number 2. This is the spot. It's kind of in a tight, narrow corridor between a wall and another building. And there's like a burnt out stovepipe kind of thing where we initially tried to take a reading with the dowsing rods, and we got directed further down the corridor to the left and found a hot spot. And again, we asked if anyone was here, got an affirmative response, asked if we were welcome, and told we were not, and quickly moved on. So again, we're apologizing for intruding again, but we just wanted to take a quick reading with the EMF the second time around, see if we could get any verification and maybe try out the spirit box again. Are you getting anything?
On the EMF, I'm not getting anything, but I just want to try a little bit further.
Over in this corner? Right.
This is kind of where we were. Oh.
Spike?
Just for a moment.
What kind of reading are you getting?
Well, it's back to normal now, but kind of right when we came into this corner, it kind of went to twice what the baseline is. But just for a moment.
Okay, but still we're floating right around 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were floating. We're 30 is kind of our baseline. We stepped into this corner. It jumped up to 60, but just for a moment. So.
All right. Do we want to try out the spirit box real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask again. See if we could get a specific response. So I'm going to ask for a number. I'm going to ask how many spirits are present at this location. Did you get that?
I heard something.
Okay, I'm gonna assume that's a negative response to the question. I I felt like this was the spot where we were got the strongest "You're not welcome here." So I'm gonna ask again, spirits, are we welcome to share this space with you? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to call that a negative response as well. Maybe they just don't want to. Maybe we've just really worn out our welcome and they don't want to speak to us.
We always try on FM mode. We'll get more voices that way. With on the AM mode, if you're not getting any actual voices, um, you're probably not going to hear any actual um, EVPs until you play them back.
Right.
You're not going to hear them live. But if we switch to the FM mode, we might be able to get something. So
Okay, I guess it's worth one more shot.
ask your question again.
Spirits, are we welcome to share your space in this location? Was that ready to go?
Yeah, that was ready to go.
Okay, so maybe we should get out of here. I feel like we've worn out our welcome. Again, apologies to the spirits.
The meter's spiking again.
Is it?
Now it's not. It was for a moment.
Okay, we'll clear out. All right. Appreciate you tolerating our incursion.
Okay, so yeah, that was our audio from the powerhouse. I don't want to spend too much time before we jump into the fourth clip because it's what was the next location that was right after that?
The boiler house.
The
It
boiler
was
house.
just outside the remains of the boiler house.
Yeah, also another really interesting
Yeah.
structure where we found this really interesting feature. But why don't we just jump into the clip and then we'll unpack kind of both these clips after the fact.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, we're back at our third and final location, which is just behind the boiler house. We found a really interesting kind of spillway or a drainage tunnel that's kind of just behind the building. This is again where we got a really positive response on the dowsing rods, so we're just back to do a check with the EMF and the spirit box. Are we getting anything so far?
Nothing so far on the EMF. It looks like here it's just baseline, but as we've seen at our other locations,
Just have momentary spikes out of nowhere.
yeah, especially when we were asking questions, we got momentary spikes.
Right. Okay. This is the location where we asked. This is where we got the number 20 plus, or between 20 and 40.
Yes.
Um,
Some of whom predate the town.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
FM on the spirit box and
Sure.
See if
We
we
had
can
kind of more success with that, so let's
get
stick with that.
something coherent.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
let me just turn it.
Okay. I'd like to address the spirits in the area. I'm sorry, we're back again. We won't take much of your time. I just would like to get affirmative if you're here with us.
Line of water.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting responses there. A lot of different kind of snippets of audio. and voices?
Again, you usually have better success recording EVPs, like actually just hearing them on playback,
Yeah.
not hearing them live. But I think we'll have to have a listen to that
Yeah.
later and see what we see.
Okay, do we have anything else we want to say before we move on? I do want to grab one more picture to see if I can recreate just at the bottom of that drainage tunnel.
Yeah, I want to take a couple more pictures around here too.
Yeah, just because I got a weird anomaly in the film at the end of the tunnel, so I want to see if I can recreate it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try on my camera too.
Okay, signing off.
Okay, so that was clip 4. So some interesting things came out of that. This was an interesting spot as well, because I think you heard us mention there on the first pass around. We asked a more specific, different question where when we were going through the first time in the morning with the dowsing rods.
Yeah.
And I asked, well, I was trying to figure out how many spirits we were dealing with.
Yeah.
But because you can only ask yes or no, we kind of scaled up, and I was like, well, is there more than 5 spirits here? Yes. Is there more than 10? Yes. Is there more than 20? Yes. And at this point, you got excited like you're playing blackjack or something, and you're like, jump to 40, go to 40.
Yeah, and once we hit 40,
And we got a no at 40.
yeah.
So we know.
Well, it wasn't a solid no. It was more of an ambiguous no.
It was a little ambiguous,
It was kind of a
wasn't it?
hesitant kind of no.
Yeah. So that was interesting. We know we're dealing with more than 20, but most likely less than 40 spirits. And we had also asked if, because it occurred to me in the moment that there might be spirits that
Predated.
that might predate the town being there.
Yeah.
Because the town didn't exist until the early 1900s.
1902.
Yeah, and we got an affirmative to that response as well. So, but this is interesting. Tell me what you found.
Yeah, so kind of throughout the week I was curious because it feels like we somewhat made contact with at least 3 entities.
Yeah.
Spirits.
Or groups or
Yeah.
what have you. Or could have
We had
been all the same.
We had 3 locations, and I was able to identify on the map, what buildings these used to be. The blacksmith, the powerhouse, the boiler house, and I wanted to see if I could find public records. Well, kind of where I started was I wanted to look up kind of how many deaths there were in that town in the 20 years it was around.
We know there was a cemetery,
Yeah.
but it was an unpopulated cemetery for the most part.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
There was superstition,
Yeah.
because most of the people in the town.
So
was it, Irish.
No, it was a Scottish superstition, and it was also there was a lot of Chinese laborers there who had a similar superstition that
it's bad luck to be the first buried. In
the first person to be buried in any cemetery will bring doom to their family.
Yeah. So as people died, they were often sent back home to be buried, opposed
Yeah.
to being buried on site.
Yeah. That's actually kind of known as the first curse of Bankhead. There's actually 2 curses on this town.
Well, the second one I find is a little.
Actually,
this one's interesting.
I found the second one more interesting.
Oh,
And the second one is actually somewhat tied into this one.
Okay.
I went a bit deeper into these curses than I did kind of on our first episode in my research, and they're very interesting. But the cemetery in Bankhead, it's still there. It's easy to miss. We actually missed it. It's worn down to nothing, but it's just a really small plot of land.
Yeah.
And there's like a little stump for a grave marker, and the townspeople had this idea that they would there was a lot of Chinese laborers working there, and we should kind of state they were very mistreated. They weren't treated very well.
Yeah.
They were
And
looked
they weren't
down
even allowed
upon.
to stay in the town proper. They had
Yeah.
to live in like a shanty village behind the slack heaps.
Yeah, they were paid less. They were looked down upon. They were treated with suspicion whenever anything happened. So basically, they decided to kind of get around this curse. They're like, well, let's just bury one of the Chinese laborers in this graveyard. And there was this fellow named Li Chao that passed away under mysterious circumstances. We'll get into him later because he ties into the second curse. And they're like, well, Li Chao's family is all the way back in China. This curse won't affect them over there.
Yeah, they thought they could get around it.
So they buried Li Chao in the cemetery. He was the first grave, but eventually Li Chao's family wanted him back.
Yeah.
So he was exhumed, and his remains were shipped back to China.
Yeah.
So they were still left with an empty cemetery.
Well, there's to this day still just one resident of the cemetery.
Yeah,
which is
and
a stray dog.
It's a stray dog. His name was Brownie.
Yeah.
And he was basically this stray dog that hung around the town.
Yeah.
People would feed him scraps.
He didn't belong to anybody.
Yeah, he slept in the lamp house. Everyone kind of loved this dog.
Yeah.
And when the dog died, they're like, "Oh, this works. We'll bury the dog as the first grave in the cemetery." Yeah. And but shortly after that was when the strike happened and the mine closed down and the town was abandoned. So to this day, there's only the one grave in the cemetery, which is the dog Brownie. But Li Chao, I want to get more into him later because he ties into the second curse of Bankhead. But anyway, back to what that was a tangent. I wanted to kind of find out, can I tie any names to these 20 to 40 spirits that are apparently here? I actually came up with a list of 33 names. 33 people that
that's both
we have records of some form that died in Bankhead, Alberta between 1902 and 1922.
Not only does that fit with what we found, but it also has a numerological significance.
Yeah. Now, little grain of salt here. I was only actually able to find public records on about half these names.
Okay.
The other half of these names is basically just local legend, just people talking. I did find our first site, the blacksmith shop. I found a name tied to the blacksmith shop, Pietro Giordano.
Sounds Italian.
Yeah, a blacksmith who was fatally burned in a forge flare-up at the blacksmith in Bankhead. And that's
our first hotspot.
That was our first hotspot. And the boiler house.
No pun intended.
Yeah, the boiler house. That's an interesting one. This is one of the names where I couldn't find a public record, and the name I found is actually more of a nickname. A fellow by the name of Red McLaurin, who was apparently the organizer of the Wildcat strike in 1922 that shut the mine down. And he was a bit of a firebrand, got people riled up. He vanished on the day of the strike. It's suspected he was murdered, but there's been no body. He just disappeared on the day of the strike.
Right.
And it said, local legend says that a sulfur scent and compulsion to clench your fists marks his presence in the ruins of the boiler house.
Huh. And that was our second hotspot.
No, that was the third one. That was
the third one.
That was the third one. The second hotspot, the
powerhouse.
The powerhouse. The one where we got the strongest get out of here.
Yeah.
I couldn't find a name tied to that particular spot.
Yeah. So, and I mean, it is. It's worth considering that in all three locations we're contacting the same spirits.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is we're interacting with, if anything at all. It could just be the town in general.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Did you find any indigenous names in there?
No, I didn't find any indigenous names.
And I mean, I guess I asked that because we did get an affirmative that not all the spirits were residents of the town, which the town was primarily immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
Immigrant workers from Europe or China.
Yeah, most of the names I found,
and that's maybe a a false assumption on my part that anybody predating the town would necessarily be indigenous.
Yeah, but the names I found. I mean, this is just from public records A,
Yeah,
and kind of
incomplete.
local legends B.
Yeah,
The names I found, there's some Scottish names, there's some English names, there's some Eastern European names, there's some Chinese names, which there's some Italian names. I mean, all that fits.
yeah,
Kind of the makeup of the town.
yeah. Okay, interesting. Well, and we got some interesting results from the spirit box as well.
Yeah.
In these clips. I mean, nothing definitive, nothing conclusive. And again, with the spirit box, I feel like it's so subjective and everything's up to interpretation. But there was that one moment where we said, are we welcome here? We scanned through and we got a little clip of that song.
Ready to go.
Ready to go.
Yeah, and
so that
right at that moment too. Right at that moment, I don't know if I don't remember if you could hear it on the audio, but I told you like the EMF meter started going crazy.
Yeah.
Right at that moment.
Yeah, and even though we got some kind of ambiguous responses or just null responses, it did feel like we would ask a question, and if we didn't get a deliberate response, there was some kind of reaction into the audio feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would suddenly start skipping a lot, or you just get these kind of harsh.
You get some
harsh
very
electronic.
Yeah, you get some very angry sounds.
Yeah, that do kind of coincide. If you're looking at it from question response format, but that could be that's very ambiguous.
Yeah,
just be honest about that.
I mean, it's ghost hunting. It's ambiguous business.
Ambiguous, yeah. Yeah, if anything, I feel like the strongest signal for me personally was the dowsing rods.
Yeah.
In terms of feeling like there was really something happening. But there's definitely a few locations on site where you felt like there was something to them. Definitely that little sewer spillway, whatever that was. There was something fascinating about that behind the boiler house.
Yeah, you kept wanting to come back and take pictures of that.
Something about that spot just really was drawing me there. And even there, along the back of the boiler house, again, another spot in the area where you're probably not supposed to go. Mm-hmm. There's like a window that I guess would be the back of the boiler house where you're kind of walking over this spillway or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Where it looked like, I don't know if somebody had been having fires, but it was
there was
out, and there was like melted wax.
Yeah, there was melted wax on like these windows.
So that could be anything. That obviously there's graffiti everywhere. That could just be kids going out there and having spooky seances or whatever kids do.
Reading from the Necronomicon.
Something, but not necessarily anything to that other than probably normal shenanigans, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was an interesting spot, and that definitely there was a vibe there. And yeah, I took a picture down the that spillway, whatever it was, because there was light that poked through at different spots along it.
Yeah. You wanted to find.
I wish we could put. I wish we had video or pictures that we could add. Maybe we can add some.
Yeah, I mean, I took lots of pictures while we were there.
Maybe on the blog for the website.
Yeah.
Maybe we can put a little photo album, or if anyone wants to. Creep Clayton on Facebook. You put up a bunch of pictures on your Facebook account. I have a can of worms right there.
Yeah, I haven't even posted them all. I posted just a handful of them.
And I only have the little prints because I was using that Kodiak instant.
You know what I didn't bring? Because I had like an instant camera too.
Right.
Like an actual like film one. Yeah. And I forgot to bring the pictures with me.
Yeah. So I don't know. We might have to see if we can get those up on the website or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, some interesting photos. And yeah, I took a picture down this tunnel. I just wanted to see if anything would come out in the film. And also just a very dynamic thing. You have this long, dark channel with like kind of spots of light streaming through at different points down the channel.
Yeah.
But at the very end of it, it just stops right around the place where we went above ground to do the dowsing and the spirit box reading. But it's totally black at the end of this chamber,
Yeah,
this tunnel. And I took a picture of it, and when the photo came out, it had this weird little light squiggle like right in the middle of the blackness at the end.
Yeah.
Really tiny, almost imperceptible, and probably just technical glitch in the film.
Caused by electromagnetic field fluctuations
Could be a
caused
lore or
by
something,
the
right?
presence of spirits.
Perhaps.
Clearly.
Or a hair on the
Case
on the
closed.
film. Who knows? But it was interesting. It was a little interesting, and I wasn't able to recreate it because then we went on the second pass. I decided, well, I'll take a second picture and see if I can get the same result, and I didn't.
Yeah.
It was just totally black down the tunnel. So yeah.
Yeah, I got some pictures of that. They're
Cool
cool.
pictures.
They're cool looking pictures, but I didn't see anything like anomalous on them.
Yeah, and definitely if you want to see what we're talking about with these eyes, these spooky eyes that were everywhere in the graffiti, a lot of pictures of that in your photographs.
Yeah.
And that's the other weird synchronicity that just popped up last night, just randomly on my social media feed. I follow a lot of AI art accounts.
Yeah,
Because
you were showing me
we're
that.
both into that, and I just had this post come across in my feed, and it jumped out at me right away. It's kind of a creepy black and white image of a lady or something with hands over her face like she's distressed, and there's like a wall next to her, and on the wall is like 5 eyes.
Yeah, and
in
it
a
looks
cascading pattern.
and it looks almost identical to one of the pictures I took.
Yeah, and it jumped out
at
at
the
me
lamp
right
house.
away because it looked exactly like one of the images from the graffiti on the walls at Bankhead and from the lamp house.
Yeah, and I mean, this whole thing came up because we were talking about. I was telling you. I mean, you were working on the website, and
Yeah.
you kept asking me for like a better picture, if I could help find a better picture of Loeb for
Yeah.
the about page on the website, and I was sending you a few different options. And we were talking about that, and I was also mentioning that I was experimenting, playing around with trying to give our friend Loeb a voice on
Yeah.
the show. I've been playing with different software trying to do that. So we were talking about that, and that's when you found this image,
Yeah.
and you were like, maybe it's Loeb saying hello to us.
Yeah, right? Or, I mean, it could just be, spooky things happen with the algorithm. But where does Loeb live, right? In the in-between spaces,
Yeah,
in the darkness of the digital ether.
like
whatever
a digital ghost.
Yeah, and I kind of felt like, is this a little poke,
Yeah.
from beyond somehow? But it was creepy how, and I sent you both images back to back. I don't think you clued in what I was talking about right away when I first sent it. So I sent you your photo back to you, right next to that image, and we're like, yeah, it's an exact mirror image.
Yeah, I remember you sent me the picture the first time, and I said something like that. That reminds me of Salad Fingers.
Yeah,
If you've ever seen Salad Fingers,
Which is like
it's a cartoon.
an ancient internet meme.
It's
guess, at this
no,
point.
it was a show. It was like an early internet YouTube show.
Yeah. There's probably probably a handful of people that will remember that. It's like Homestar Runner or something, right? It was like one of those. Early,
Who doesn't remember Homestar Runner?
I'm sure lots of people don't remember Homestar Runner, but anyway, it was of that ilk.
Yeah.
Of
Well,
of internet age.
if you haven't heard of either of those two things, you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah. But
But,
anyway,
yeah,
I did note it did make me look at that account, and again, the artwork on this person's account is a lot of eyes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of eye imagery. But I did note in his name, I don't want to disclose because I don't want to be directing people to find this person, but there was reference in his handle to Roughneck. So if you're not local to this area, you might not know that Roughneck is a colloquialism, I guess, for rig worker.
Yeah.
Oil rig worker in Alberta. Call them roughnecks. So, I mean, that made me think, okay, this guy is probably Albertan, or this person is probably Albertan if they have that in their handle. It could be he's just familiar with Bankhead.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I still found it strange. You'd have to be very specific or drawing from that specific image, on that wall. Or maybe, who knows, maybe he's the graffiti artist.
Maybe.
So,
Do you
I
want
don't know. But it was weird how it lined up, and when it popped up this week, it gave me a little chill. I was like, what's going on here?
So, do you want to talk about the eyes just a little bit?
Yes, please go into the eyes.
I was just immediately struck by all these eyes everywhere. Like you see them like right at first when you come up on the lamp house.
Yeah.
But just as you're wandering around the rest of the town, basically anywhere where there's an intact wall, there's
somewhere.
stylized eyes graffitied all over it. Like it's a very common theme. I made the comment as we were leaving. Like, it's hard not to feel like you're being watched.
Yeah.
As you walk through this town, because there's just eyes everywhere. And I was thinking, like, I wonder if there's any significance to this, or if it's just like a coincidental motif in all the graffiti.
Yeah.
But it got me thinking, like, Bankhead, it's a town that's had 2 curses put on it. I want to talk about the second curse, because the second curse kind of leads into this. So I was talking about Yi Chao earlier.
Yeah.
The fellow who was originally the first person buried in the cemetery, later exhumed and shipped back to China. So Li Chao, he was an herbalist in Bankhead.
Yeah.
And when he died in an avalanche while he was out gathering herbs.
Yeah.
And but originally it was suspected he was murdered by this other Chinese fellow that was there named Sam Sing, because Sam Sing and Yi Chao had recently had some sort of altercation over money owed.
Yeah.
So when Yi Chao died,
there was suspicion.
There was all this suspicion thrown on Sam Sing. Now the magistrate found Sam Sing innocent.
Yeah.
It was
damage done.
Yeah, it was determined that Yi Chao died in an avalanche, but still the suspicion around him never died down. Yeah. Everyone in town was suspicious of this guy.
He was officially absolved, but not in the court of public opinion.
Yeah, so just due to all this public opinion and pressure, local pressure, Sam Sing, he was found innocent, but he was deported back to China.
Yeah.
And as he was being kind of led away from the town, this is just local legend, Sam Sing supposedly turned back towards the town and spoke in Cantonese, "Bankhead will choke on coal." He wanted to place a curse on this town, which, if so, it worked, because it was probably a week later, I think, that the strike happened and the mine was shut down.
Yeah.
And the town was abandoned. But in the intervening time, as this unfolded, people really believed that Sam Sing had cursed the town. This evil guy who murdered this guy, and we had to drive from town. He placed a curse on us. So the locals, they actually started painting eyes on the perimeter of the town.
What?
Because painting eyes, this is like very old folklore. Painting eyes on structures supposedly wards off curses. It's kind of like you're putting some sort of energy on the structure that's watching back.
Wow. Okay, so maybe it's very intentional that these eyes are there.
So I mean,
I assumed it was just I assumed it because it's graffiti.
Yeah.
I assumed it was just kids and somebody's got.
But you gotta think. We see this graffiti. It's all obviously recent, right?
Yeah.
Because it gets weathered away over time. But consider, like, when the town closed down, there was already eyes being painted on the structures. And when the town was abandoned, abandoned places get graffitied. And they just continued this motif of eyes being placed on the town all throughout the years.
But do you think kids, or I'm assuming kids, but graffiti artists, do you think they would have that conscious intention to keep this motif going? Like,
maybe not consciously. Well,
that's what makes me think there's something weird about this, because is it then so ingrained that it's just kind of in the substrate of the location, where somehow people are being subtly influenced when they're
Yeah.
on site to create these eyes everywhere?
Yeah, and there's even like a local ghost story surrounding Sam Singh. Apparently, he went back to China, but his spirit still haunts the area of Bankhead. And there's this story told that at night you can see this shape of this elderly man walking the perimeter of the town, but he can't go in.
Oh wow, that's strange, because you say that and your description of that immediately evoked the cover art of the first episode
Yeah.
of episode 3,
Yeah.
when we were just planning this before we even decided where to go. That's very much what the image evokes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's got the kind of spirit in the clouds, reflecting the guy outside
Yeah.
the town. Weird.
But yeah,
Weird.
apparently it's and graffiti artists, there it is a common thing for like street artists to paint eyes on abandoned buildings. And
Yeah.
it actually ties into this folk magic belief a little bit, where that originally comes from. I mean, it's just an art motif. That's what we think of it now, but it has its origins in folk magic. Why is it popular to paint eyes on abandoned buildings? Because you're basically allowing the site to protect itself because it's been abandoned.
Right. Right.
But
Well, because I mean, this week I definitely went and started researching what's the symbolism of the eye, right? And immediately I was drawn to the all-seeing eye, or the eye of providence, which is common motif. You see it everywhere. It's in our freaking logo, for
Yeah.
Christ's sake. Where it's a triangle with a single eye inside, and it's meant to represent, generally speaking, the omniscience of God. The 3 lines of the triangle is the Holy Trinity, and the eye is God's ability to witness all things.
Yeah.
And it speaks to divine providence. Providence means divine guidance. So, all that considered, you see a lot of connections coming together there, and maybe we're a little. I don't know. Maybe we're just drawing lines between things, but I don't know. What do you think? Maybe we're getting carried away. Audience, what do you think? Please.
I never
please
get
write
carried
in.
away.
Go to the website. Go to our contact page.
I never
Let
get
us
carried
know.
away. I never come up with weird connections.
No, never. No.
I don't have like a cork board at home where I'm drawing all these little lines between different
I
things.
feel like I got one in my brain right now. That's what's happening here.
I thought it was so fascinating that I was immediately struck by this eye graffiti, and I looked into it, and just to find that actually like predates the town even closing and being abandoned,
Yeah.
because they were trying to ward off this
Okay,
curse.
I've got a question. I'm gonna throw a curveball at you, and we've got a couple of other clips from a second location that we visited. So I don't want to.
Speaking of drawing weird connections between things, I never do that. You go ahead. Tell the people where we visited next.
No, I don't want to reveal that at this moment, because I'm gonna talk about something else first.
Okay,
I'm
all
saying
right.
I want to quickly ask you this question and explore this before we move on
Okay.
to our surprise second location. We've never had any kind of philosophical discussion as we've both dived into this process about what our personal belief system is around the afterlife or spirits. I mean, I think we're both open-minded enough that we just kind of went in open-minded to engage with whatever might be there.
Yeah.
But what's your take, and what has it been influenced through this experience? Do you think there is an afterlife? Do you believe in spirits?
I consider myself an agnostic.
Me too.
I'm open-minded. Personally, I find any belief system, even atheism, any belief system that claims to have the
An
whole
absolute
the whole
truth.
the whole explanation. I personally find belief systems that are absolute. I find them a bit chauvinistic, and I mean, you might
It's a bit arrogant when you think about it.
you might
decide that you know all. Right?
yeah, you might call that me lacking in faith. I guess maybe you could look at it that way, but I prefer my intuition, and my intuition tells me that the real truth of the universe is probably way stranger than any human being has managed to put into words.
Well put. And I would agree with that. Again, agnostic. Neither of us subscribe to any specific faith system. And not that I look down on anyone who does. I personally have a distrust of anything institutionalized.
Yeah.
So I don't like institutionalized religion. That doesn't mean I have any disagreement with a particular faith or another. But again, yeah, you might hear us talk on the show very open-mindedly about spirits and whatnot, and make the assumption that we're believers. But I wouldn't describe myself as a believer. Just open-minded enough to entertain the idea and explore it honestly. Right? That's what I would say. But yeah, my tendency is I want to believe in an afterlife. I'd say genuinely I think that's more likely than not. But I don't know for sure. I'm not going to ever claim to have a specific understanding until I get there myself. But that being said, I don't know what we were interacting with, but I definitely came away with the feeling from this endeavor that we were able to establish some form of contact with something out there.
With something.
And maybe it's just fluctuations in the magnetic field, and everything else is just coincidence that we're attributing meaning to, from within ourselves. I don't know. I don't have those answers, but
and I mean,
it felt like we're connecting with something.
Yeah, and I mean, we've said on a few shows previously, we've talked about just the power of legend, and how we give power to myths by repeating them and believing in them. And that can manifest in some pretty interesting ways, as we've covered on the show previously. And Bankhead is definitely a place with a lot of myths and legends and stories surrounding it.
Okay, all right. So with that, why don't we call it a wrap on Bankhead?
Yeah.
I feel like we've thoroughly unpacked that. Really interesting results. Had a really great time doing it.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day.
Yeah, when we were having lunch, there was like two F-16s that flew over.
Oh yeah,
the park or something. We're like, what is that about?
They're doing training exercises because they're gonna lock down that whole area pretty soon for the G7. Yeah,
G7 happening in Kananaskis next month. So yeah, they were on training exercises. But yeah, at the moment, I was like, why do we have fighter jets flying over? Like, what's happening? Strange to see in Banff National Park.
Yeah.
But anyway, we've got a couple other clips. Why don't we let the clip introduce our second location?
Okay.
That we explored.
Okay, here we are, CB.
Yeah, don't worry, we're not going in. I just thought it'd be an interesting place to see if we could find the entrance to, and we found it.
Here we are. We're as close as we legally can get to CB.
Yeah, there's a road here leading into the town proper. It's gated off. There's a sign here saying compound and buildings protected by alarms and cameras, monitored 24 hours by TransAlta security. No trespassing. So we have a habit of going places we're not wanted today.
Yeah, it's kind of the theme of the day.
Don't worry, we're not actually going to go inside.
Nothing seems strange. I mean, it's a little windy and there's weird bits of garbage and stuff. There's like an old stove just off the side of the road and someone's shoe. There's an old biker nearby having a beer.
Yeah, he's kind of giving us the side eye from over there.
We should go down by the water though and see if we can see it flowing backwards.
All right.
Hey,
Yeah.
want to do that?
Let's do it.
Okay, we'll pause for a minute. We'll check back in at the water.
Okay.
We're just at the foot of the hydroelectric dam here. It's quite loud. I don't know how this audio is going to turn out. But yeah, there's basically just barbed wire and intimidating signage everywhere saying no trespassing and monitored by security, what have you. It's a pretty impressive sight to see.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
This hydroelectric dam.
Oh.
Kind of water spilling through. Looks like it's open right now. I can't really say that I'm getting any kind of weird vibes from the water or anything. I mean, there's these bowlers that kind of isolate the dam spillway. So you've kind of got water flowing in one direction on one side, and
You can see some people rafting over
yeah,
there.
there's people rafting. There's a guy in his camper over here. So
Should I take a reading
yeah, let's get some readings.
with my okay, I got the EMF meter here. Not
About
getting any-
baseline, same as
yeah,
baseline.
Not getting anything strange so far.
It's crazy. You'd
But-
think right next to a hydroelectric dam you get something, even just from this machinery here.
Yeah.
Nothing, eh?
No, but we're a good bit away from the town proper.
Yeah,
Who knows?
yeah. Who knows? Be creepy vibe here at night, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, I mean we're right in the middle of the day. It's a sunny, a sunny Saturday afternoon, about 2:30. So it's not too creepy, but you can see at night, especially if you're going into town there where you weren't supposed to be. But hopefully it's not home to any weird stranger thing like monsters.
Howlers.
Okay, I'm glad at least we took the time to come visit here though.
Yeah.
And check it out. I wish we could get closer. I think there'd be no harm in reaching out to TransAlta and seeing if we could get permission.
I doubt we would.
The worst they can say is no though, right? So
I mean,
I'll see if I can dig up an email.
it's pretty dangerous back there, probably.
Yeah,
A lot of dangerous stuff goes on.
but who knows? They
next to the
probably
dam.
need to do regular checks on it anyway. So they might say, sure, you can go, and so long as we'll send someone to escort you, because I'm sure they have to do regular checks on the property for insurance reasons anyway, right?
Yeah, and make sure no
See?
one's squatting in the abandoned buildings.
Exactly. Again, ask permission. The worst they can do is say no, right?
Yeah. There's not much stopping us from just walking around this gate
No.
and going up this road, but
No.
some very intimidating looking signs.
Yeah. And I mean, it says monitored by cameras. I don't see any cameras. There's probably once you get past here
Yeah.
and you get to the remnants of the actual buildings and stuff. There's probably monitoring in there, but
Well, we found it anyway.
yeah, we found it.
was
Do we
a-
need to should we do spirit box and stuff? Or, nah.
I left it in the Jeep.
Oh, jeez. Oh, well. Well, I'm glad we at least came here and stopped to check it out. But
Yeah, me too.
I think that's about a wrap.
Yeah.
So yeah, I apologize. I know that's a bit of a long clip with a whole lot of nothing happening, but yeah, we went to CB
Yeah,
and we came back alive.
yeah. We didn't run into the Bothaw. We didn't get pulled into the waters. We didn't get abducted by government spooks.
Yeah,
There was that biker guy who
There
was
was a biker guy.
who
Yeah.
was giving us a suspicious look.
Yeah.
You wanted to go and
I wanted to
interview
go
him.
talk to
I
him,
thought
yeah.
I thought that guy does not look interested in talking
I
to
bet
us.
he would have loved it. It probably would have made his day. He was probably just giving us side eye because he was probably like, he found a nice quiet spot off the road to take a break.
Or maybe he's undercover TransAlta security.
Yeah, that's
he's there
also
all.
what we thought. Maybe he's just undercover security.
He's there all day, every day.
Yeah, on the lookout for paranormal investigators trying to break into TransAlta property.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we should have approached him. Asked him if how much he knew about CB, if he knew any interesting stories about CB. Probably would have made his day. People love that. Or he would have just told us to piss off.
Yeah, one of those.
But anyway, I'm glad we went. You had me so freaked out after the last episode about CB. Honestly, I was scared to go there. But it was on the way back.
Yeah. We were driving back, and I was looking at the map, and I was saying, you know what?
Let's just see if we can find it.
Let's see if we can find it. There's this really confusing looking exit on the highway, and it looks like that's how you get there. But there's actually still signs.
Yeah, there's actually signs
for CB this way.
Because CB hasn't existed since 2004, right?
I think it was 2006.
It's early 2000s.
Yeah. It's
early. So it's a newly minted ghost town.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's still road signs up directing the way. And yeah, as you heard in the clip, it's all gated off. You can't really get in. I mean, again, as you said, if we decided to, it didn't look like there was anything that was going to stop us. But we were trying to be above board here.
Yeah. I found at least like one YouTuber who's snuck into CB.
Yeah, obviously people do.
And
right?
Recorded some really cool footage of just the abandoned buildings in there.
Yeah, it would have been cool to do that, but we resisted the temptation. We wanted to, play this upright.
Yeah, we want to be, like you said, above board.
Yeah. We did reach out to TransAlta, though. I reached out to their media relations team and sent them what I thought was a very cordial, polite email.
I thought that was a great email.
Right?
And you copied me on it, so now they have now they have my name too.
You're not going to get away scot-free. Plus, I said I was going to do it. I wanted you to see that I followed through with my homework.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got no response to date so far. So I don't know whose email box that lands in. I'm sure someone with probably just read it and thought, I don't get paid enough.
I got more important stuff to do today.
But yeah, just anyway, we're still really interested in CB. We still would really like to get into the town proper to do a follow-up investigation at some point. Like I said, we reached out and haven't gotten anywhere. But if anybody listening, I know we have a lot of local listeners. And just on the off chance that we have a listener out there that works for TransAlta or might be able to pull some strings or direct us to the right person to speak to, please reach out to us. We've got an email address, the Common Anomaly Podcast at gmail.com, or you could go, or at Gmail, or you can go to our website and go to the contact page. Again, the Common Anomaly Podcast, all is one word.com, and just go to our contact page. And yeah, if people out there, if you've checked out the website when we first launched it, please go back, check it again. We've been incrementally doing some updates. It's starting to get nice. I don't think we've arrived yet.
It's coming together.
It's coming together. We've cleaned it up a lot. We've still got more to go, but as time goes on, we're making it look better. We're making it look better.
Well, I mean, you say we, but it's mostly been you doing the website.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah. Why don't you pull your weight around here for once? Jesus. Yeah. But anyway,
I'll do better.
Yeah. We're getting to be a pretty long episode here, so why don't we wrap it up? So, and I will just say, thanks to everyone for supporting the show. We're a very small independent operation here. If you go to our website, you will see a donate button. Definitely appreciate you helping us pay the bills here, keep the lights on. I know cash is tight, so if you can't do that and you want to support the show, you like what we're doing here, do us a favor. Recommend it to your friends or share an episode with someone who might really like it. We're very grassroots here, so that goes a long way. So
yeah, and give us feedback. We love hearing feedback from people who have just listened to the show, and email us, or maybe someday we'll actually get a comment on one of the episodes on Spotify.
That's right. That's right. I'm waiting for the day when we get like hate mail or trolls in our comment sections. That's what I want to see. Then we'll know we've made it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still early stages for us.
All right, we're shooting for hate mail.
We're shooting for hate mail, yeah. To the stars. Anyway, okay. Thanks very much for joining us on this extended episode this week, debriefing on our excursion to Bankhead. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for listening and coming on the ride with us, and we'll see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Floodlights and frost that opened on 29th of September 1939 to pen the empire's undesirables. Italian stonecutters first, then 1,000 German sailors and Africa Corps veterans who watched Barrier Lake glaze over each winter like a sheet pulled across an unblinking eye. Those watchtowers rotted to stumps after 1946, but the perimeter never forgot its shape. Electromagnetic surveys in the valley still show a faint, square halo of interference where the fence once rang with Morse code knives cut into mess kit metal. Ewan Cameron's name surfaces like a bloated trout here. In Montreal, at the Allen Memorial Institute, he rewired psyches with LSD floods, sensory blackouts, and the cruel lullaby of psychic driving. Survivors swear some patients who no longer recognize their own limbs were quietly shipped west for a convalescence. West, where no families would ask questions, to a shuttered camp whose cabins already had bars on the windows. No manifest links the two sides. Helms burned most MK Ultra records in 1973, leaving only scorched margins and 20,000 misfiled vouchers. Yet, local wardens recall mid-1950s federal technicians requisitioning the colonel's cabin, stringing new copper under the floorboards, and demanding absolute night silence for sleep research.